When I was growing up, my favorite few rappers were Earl Sweatshirt, Chance the Rapper, and Kendrick Lamar. I first learned about him through my friend Jake. Jake had the info on everything. He is incidentally how I came to be a fan of pretty much anything that I'm a fan of today. I remember sitting with him at lunch one day in high school and he said, "Have you ever heard of Anthony Fantano?" I had not. He gave me the rundown, and that day when I got home from school, I started looking into it. I found a review of Good Kid, Mad City that Fantano had made. Later, Jake gave me a physical copy of the album and I burned a hole in it. I had two albums in my car at all times, 2014 Forest Hills Drive and Good Kid, Mad City. I always love spending time with something, especially now when media has become more of a disposable product with major releases barely clocking the 2.5 minute mark. My favorite things cannot be fully appreciated in one listen or even several. Good Kid, Mad City is a living, breathing album that tells a timeless story. There are memories in my life so deeply tied to this project that it feels as essential to my upbringing as my extended family do. I went back and listened to Section 80 and loved it. It hasn't aged as well as some people online might say, but it's still solid. TPAB is a benchmark in creativity, a project that I think cannot be compared or rivaled by anyone or anything. Then, Damn dropped. I don't really like Damn. Certainly not as much as his other works. It felt like a downgrade. The aspects that I didn't like about Kendrick's earlier work kept popping their heads up here. The first few minutes of Triple X, the weird falsetto voices in the pop tracks. Later, we would get Mr. Morale, which would further commit to this method he executed in Damn. It wasn't so much formulaic as it was just not the kind of stuff I like. Constant biblical imagery that doesn't ever really add to the song. Goofy voiced hooks, and pop trap love songs. Early in his career, Kendrick felt like the Pink Floyd of hip hop. And now, it feels like while he still has that in him, he just can't access it like he used to. Kendrick will never drop another album to the quality of T-Pap. I'm not sure that's even his goal, or if he sees it the same way I do. Actually, I'm sure he doesn't. I understand your voice changes over time. And I also understand rappers use different voices for different songs, or even multiple in the same track. I'm just a curmudgeonly old man that doesn't like it. His alien voice, his high-pitched falsetto, his half-crying voice, the list goes on. These tools, when utilized, completely sell some of his songs for me, Mad City being a prime example. On one hand, it enhances the narrative of the track and the album it belongs to, painting him as this young teen living in Compton. His voice cracks. It has this raw energy that totally sells him as a corrupted youth, forced to navigate this hellish gangland environment. And on the other hand, it's an homage to another Compton rapper, The Game, who has used this technique before. Kendrick used this later on his track You, which again changes it from a great track to a masterpiece. A song that I mentioned before, Triple X, uses this voice changing technique to the opposite effect. The meat of this song is amazing. It's about Kendrick learning his friend's son has been killed, and instead of comforting his friend as we would expect, he goes into a rant. That shit would not happen to me. If somebody shot my son, I would hunt them to the ends of the earth. Why are you even on the phone with me? Avenge your son. The concept is funny in a dark way. The execution, energetic. It's frantic. You feel every emotion he's channeling, and it comes together to create an amazing single verse track. It unfortunately is sandwiched in between an abysmal intro where Kendrick uses this cartoonishly bored and sleepy voice to rap about how Johnny don't want to go to school no more. Thumbs down. And ends with him using this same sleepy voice to deliver what I guess is the punchline of the song. He said all this to his friend on the way to his school to talk about gun violence. The album even reacts going, "Damn!" Thumbs down. The album Damn has a bunch of these tracks scattered around. The intro track is spoken in this low-energy performance. The track God has one of Kenny's weirdest hooks, a song that doesn't sound like it truly knows what it wants to be. On one hand, the structure and instrumental sound like it's trying hard to turn pop, in the same way the singles from this album were, yet the vocal performance and writing seem to be experimental in a way that 1, doesn't work, and 2, don't work with the instrumental it's sitting on top of. I've mentioned this criticism before, that Kendrick's weird voices have become a turnoff for me. I've been met with the same response every time. You must be a new fan. Kenny's always been doing this. He has, for sure, but not the same way his whole career. What sets artists apart from one another in rap is how they can use their voice as another instrument. Whether it be complicated and intricate flows, sometimes at the expense of lyricism, or whether it be different and unique ways they perform the written material, sometimes at the expense of the song itself. This is a reason I could never truly get into Nicki Minaj's work. Not because I dislike her music, she has a decent amount of songs I like. The different voices, however, are just not for me personally. In Kendrick's case, the parts of his music I don't appreciate as much slowly became a rising trend. The pop tracks, the voices, and weirdly enough, Baby Keem. This may be a bit controversial, but I truly don't get Baby Keem. His project Die For My Bitch hit my Spotify rewind with a few of his songs getting a bunch of back-to-back listens from me when it released. But over time, the TDE release scheme hit Keem like a ton of bricks and dropped his momentum to near zero. Kendrick had Keem's back. They are cousins. And because of that familial relationship, it wasn't hard to figure out that Kendrick was writing for Keem as well as spending a lot of time in the studios Keem recorded. You can hear the influence Kenny's cousin had in him all over Mr. Morale, even giving Keem a track all to himself. And although Keem doesn't make an appearance in GNX, the influence is nearly front and center. In Mr. Morale, Keem influenced some vocal performances, and in GNX, you can hear the minimalistic, hard-hitting beats that were all over Die For My Bitch and Melodic Blue. It's this inspiration he's gotten from his cousin that I think has taken his music down another road I personally don't appreciate. Kendrick has spent his entire career trying to perform a magic trick he has already performed, making a conscious rap song into a hit song. He did it on Section 80 with ADHD. He did it on Good Kid Mad City with Swimming Pools. He did it on T-Pab with All Right. He has shown that he can do this, and for whatever reason, he started focusing his albums more towards that direction. So, instead of having the singles be these major blockbuster smash hits with deep, profound messages, seems like he'd prefer that be the whole album. GNX is just that magic trick, as an album, and Mr. Morale is plagued with songs like Silent Hills, Die Hard, Count Me Out, and N95, songs that try and capture club sounds, modern trap cliches, and deep social concepts. It just doesn't hit as hard for me anymore, and I blame Baby Keem. You can never stay who you are. You will always change. It's inevitable. The only thing you can do is try and course correct and make sure your change is worth doing. This video isn't meant to be me complaining about Kendrick's career or even a true criticism of him. I don't want him to go back. I don't want him to do anything. This video is more about change. The thing that inspired this video is a video from Trial of the Golden Witch where she responds to a comment explaining why certain fans feel a way about who she is now as opposed to how they felt back then. She made a point that made me totally understand. The person they were a fan of doesn't actually exist anymore. Even if she really wanted to, she couldn't make the videos she used to. She has seen too much. She's met more people. She's seen too many things. She's simply a different person with a different perspective. Kendrick made my favorite albums when he lived in the most dangerous part of America and bookended my favorite albums with a project talking about how he became institutionalized and how hard it was to transition from a paranoid street kid to a multi-millionaire famous rapper. He's now on the other side. He couldn't make Section 81, even if he really wanted to. He isn't the same person. He doesn't dress the same. He doesn't eat the same food. He doesn't see the same things when he looks out the window. He had kids. He went to therapy. He's traveled the world and talked to thousands of new people and been in the same building as millions more. As a fan of his music, I can separate the eras of Kendrick in my mind. I'm a huge fan of Kendrick, but I think I like K-Dot a little more than I like Mr. Morale, and that's totally okay.